What if I told you that a 28-year-old teacher with less than $5,000 in savings turned that into a real estate portfolio worth over $1.2 million in just 5 years? No trust fund, no lucky crypto bet, just one overlooked strategy that changed everything. Here's what most people believe about real estate. They think you need $200,000 in the bank before you can even get started. They think you need perfect credit, a fancy job title, and decades of experience before any bank will take you seriously. And that belief, right there, is what keeps 90% of people on the sidelines, while the other 10% quietly build generational wealth. The real estate market has created more millionaires than any other asset class in American history. More than stocks, more than crypto, more than any business. According to the Federal Reserve, the median net worth of a homeowner is 44 times higher than that of a renter. 44 times. Yet we're still told that owning real estate is only for the wealthy. That's not a fact. That's a myth. And today, we're going to dismantle it piece by piece. Because the strategy we're about to show you doesn't require $1 million. It doesn't even require perfect credit. What it requires is knowledge and the willingness to take one specific, calculated step. The strategy is called house hacking. And before you dismiss it as something complicated or risky, let me explain exactly what it is in the simplest terms possible. House hacking means buying a property, usually a small multifamily home like a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex, living in one unit yourself and renting out the other units to tenants. Your tenants pay your mortgage. Sometimes they pay more than your mortgage, which means you're building equity in a property, accumulating an asset that appreciates over time, and living for free or close to it. The concept is so simple, it almost sounds too good to be true, but the numbers don't lie. Let's say you buy a duplex for $300,000. You put down 3.5% using an FHA loan. That's around $10,500. You move into one unit. The other unit rents for $1,400 per month. Your total mortgage, taxes, and insurance? $1,450 per month. You're covering nearly your entire housing cost from day one. Meanwhile, market appreciation, tax deductions, and tenant equity paydown are quietly stacking your net worth in the background. Let's run the actual numbers because this is where it gets exciting. You buy a duplex for $300,000. You put down 3.5%, approximately $10,500, using an FHA loan. At a 7% interest rate, your monthly principal and interest payment is roughly $1,900. Add taxes and insurance, and your total monthly payment lands around $2,200. Now your tenant in Unit 2 pays $1,400 per month. Your out-of-pocket housing cost? $800 per month. Compare that to the average American renter paying over $1,500 per month for a similar space, and you're already ahead. But here's where the compounding begins. Over 10 years at a conservative 4% annual appreciation, that $300,000 property is now worth approximately $440,000. Your tenants have paid down roughly $40,000 of your mortgage. Your equity position? Over $180,000. Built almost entirely on someone else's money. That's the silent wealth-building engine that the wealthiest real estate investors have been using for decades. Now you understand the why. Let's talk about the how. Finding your first house hack starts with knowing your market. You're looking for small multifamily properties, 2 to 4 units, in neighborhoods with strong rental demand. Look near universities, hospitals, downtown corridors, or anywhere with low vacancy rates. Tools like Zillow, Redfin, and the multiple listing service are your starting point. But don't sleep on driving neighborhoods. Talking to local real estate agents who specialize in investment properties, and checking foreclosure lists. Now, financing. This is where most people get paralyzed. But here's the key. Because you're living in one of the units, you qualify for owner-occupied financing. That means FHA loans with just 3.5% down, VA loans for veterans with 0% down, conventional loans with as little as 5% down. Lenders actually prefer owner-occupied properties because they're statistically less risky. Your debt-to-income ratio is what matters most. Most lenders want to see your total monthly debt payments, including your new mortgage, staying below 43% of your gross monthly income. And here's the part people don't realize. The rental income from the other units can actually be counted toward your income on the mortgage application, making it easier to qualify than you might think. Once you have your financing lined up, you're ready to make offers. Expect to look at 10 to 20 properties before finding the right one. Run your numbers on every single deal. Calculate your gross rent multiplier. Estimate your net operating income. And never let emotion override the spreadsheet. So you've bought your first house hack. You're living in one unit, collecting rent from the other, and building equity every month. Now what? This is where the BRRRR method comes in. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. After 1 to 2 years in your first property, you refinance based on the new appraised value. If you've added value through renovations and the market has appreciated, you may be able to pull out enough equity to use as a down payment on your next property, without saving a single additional dollar out of pocket. This is how investors go from 1 property to 10 in a decade. They use the equity from existing properties to fund new acquisitions. They let inflation erode the real value of their fixed-rate debt. They collect rents that rise over time while their mortgage payment stays the same. The compounding effect is breathtaking. 1 property becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes a portfolio generating $5, $10, $20,000 a month in passive income. Income that arrives whether you're at work, on vacation, or sleeping. Real estate is not reserved for the rich. It never was. The strategy you just learned has helped ordinary people, teachers, nurses, truck drivers, and everyone in between, build extraordinary financial freedom. The first step is simple. Educate yourself, run your numbers, and take action. If this video opened your eyes, hit subscribe right now. Every week on Property Playbook, we break down real strategies, real numbers, and real stories that show you exactly how to build passive income through real estate. Your journey starts today.